Ryan's eyes burned as he stared at the presentation on his screen. It was nearly 9 at night. His daughter was at the neighbor's house again. He hated this. Behind him stood Natalie, his boss, the woman everyone called the Ice Queen. Her voice was sharp and precise. "This slide needs work. Adjust the margins." Ryan nodded, exhausted beyond reason. "You're right," he mumbled, except the words that came out were different. "Mrs. Wright." The room went completely silent. Ryan's entire body froze. His brain screamed at him to take it back, but it was too late. The words hung in the air between them like a confession he never meant to make. The silence pressed against Ryan's ears like thick cotton. Natalie didn't move. Her heels were planted on the gray carpet. Her hands hung still at her sides. She looked at him, not with anger, not with confusion. Something else, something softer. Ryan's pulse slammed in his throat. He opened his mouth. "I meant you're right," he said. The words tumbled out like a clumsy apology. "Sorry, I'm exhausted. I didn't mean to." She stepped closer. Her black pencil skirt whispered against her legs. She placed one hand on the edge of his desk. Then she leaned down. Her face was inches from his. The scent of lavender and rain surrounded her. "Say that again," she said. Her voice was low, slow controlled. Ryan swallowed. I said I'm sorry. I didn't mean anything by it. It was just a slip." "Not that," she said, her blue eyes locked onto his. She tilted her head slightly, her lips parted. "Say the words again." Ryan's breath caught, his brain spun. Why would she want him to repeat it? It was an embarrassing mistake, a joke, a tired man's tongue tangling, but the look on her face was serious, curious, almost hungry. He felt heat creep up his neck. "No, I can't," he stammered. "You heard me the first time. Please forget it." She didn't blink. "You called me Mrs. Wright." The words sounded strange coming from her mouth, like she was tasting something unfamiliar. Ryan's hands trembled. He gripped the edge of the desk. "It was an accident." "Was it?" The question hit him like a cold wave. He looked up at her, searching for a hint of mockery, but she wasn't mocking. She was waiting for something he didn't understand. His mind drifted to his daughter, Sophie, 7 years old, Patton. She waited for him every night, waiting for the hour when he finally came home. She didn't complain when he missed her school play. She just hugged him tight and whispered, "Daddy, you're tired." He thought about the neighbor, Mrs. Harmon. She took Sophie in for the 3rd time this week. He owed her so much. He thought about how this job was everything, the salary, the insurance, the future. And now he'd ruined it. "I'm sorry," he said again, his voice cracked. "I respect you. I would never joke about something like that. I don't even know why I said it." Natalie straightened. She folded her arms across her chest. The ice was back in her posture, but her eyes were still soft. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "You look exhausted, Ryan." He blinked. It was the first time she'd used his first name. "Your daughter's name is Lily, isn't it?" Ryan's body went still. "Sophie," he corrected quietly, the name he hadn't told her. He'd only mentioned his daughter in passing in the break room. Natalie's expression flickered. "Sophie," she repeated. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Then it was gone. She turned away. She walked to the window. She stared out at the city lights. The silence stretched between them. Ryan studied her reflection. The way her shoulders squared against the glass, the way her hands wrapped around her own arms. Like she was holding herself together, like she was afraid to fall apart. "Go home," she said. Her voice was distant. "But the presentation, take it home. Finish it there. Tomorrow morning, you'll present it to me." Ryan hesitated. He wanted to argue, but something in her voice told him not to. He grabbed his jacket. He moved toward the door. Just before he left, he glanced back. Natalie was still facing the window. But her reflection in the glass showed something unexpected. Her shoulders were shaking, just slightly. Not from anger, not from cold, from something else, something that looked like a silent, lonely pain. Ryan's heart clenched. He almost said something. The words were on his lips. "Are you okay?" But his throat closed. He didn't have the right to ask. She was his boss, nothing more. He walked out into the hallway. The door clicked shut behind him. He leaned against the wall and exhaled. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. The words he'd spoken by accident were still ringing in his ears, Mrs. Wright. Why had his tired brain chosen those words? Why had she asked him to say it again? And why did the most guarded woman he'd ever met look like she was about to cry? He didn't have answers. He only had a feeling deep in his chest, a quiet whisper that tonight, everything changed. He just didn't know if it was for better or worse. The hallway hummed with fluorescent light. He pushed off the wall. He walked toward the elevator. But his mind stayed back in that office, stayed on her reflection in the glass, on the tremor in her shoulders, on the way she said his name. Ryan. It felt different now, like a door had cracked open. One he never expected to open. He stepped into the elevator. The doors slid closed. He looked at his tired eyes in the mirror, and he whispered to himself, "What just happened?" No answer came, but somewhere in his chest, a small, quiet hope began to bloom. He had a daughter to get home to, a presentation to finish, and a boss he couldn't stop thinking about. Ryan barely slept that night. He sat at his kitchen table until 3 in the morning. The presentation gleamed on his laptop screen. Sophie was asleep upstairs. Her small breaths traveled through the monitor. He fixed every margin, every word, every color. But his mind wasn't on the slides. It was on Natalie, on the way her voice had softened, on the question she'd asked. Say that again. He couldn't make sense of it. By the time morning came, his stomach was in knots. He walked into the office at 8 sharp. His palms were sweating. He expected an email, a meeting with HR, a polite dismissal. Instead, he found coffee on his desk. Not the cheap break room coffee, the good kind, from the cafe 2 blocks over. A small white cup with his name written in clean handwriting. Ryan stared at it. He looked around the office. No one was watching. Natalie's office door was closed. He picked up the cup. It was still warm. His chest tightened. He sat down slowly. He sipped the coffee. It was perfect, exactly how he took it. 2 sugars, no cream. How did she know? The morning crawled by. Ryan worked in silence. He kept glancing at Natalie's door, waiting for her to call him and waiting for the hammer to fall. Finally, at 11, her door opened. She stepped out. Her heels clicked against the floor. She wore a dark green blouse today. It softened her sharp edges. She walked straight to his desk. Ryan stood quickly. "Good morning," she said. Her voice was calm, professional. "Morning," he replied. His throat was dry. "The presentation, are you ready?" "Yes, I finished it last night." She nodded. "Good, we'll review it at 2. She started to walk away, then she stopped. She turned back. "How is Sophie?" Ryan's heart stuttered. She's good. Thank you for asking." Natalie's lips curved. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. "How old is she?" "That's a good age," Natalie said softly. Her eyes went distant, like she was remembering something. "Does she like school?" Ryan blinked. This was the woman who never asked personal questions, the woman who kept every conversation strictly business. "She does," he said carefully. "She loves reading and drawing." Natalie nodded. "You're doing a good job," she said. The words were quiet, almost a whisper. "Being her father, alone, it's not easy." Ryan's breath caught. "Thank you," he managed. She held his gaze for a moment. Then she walked away. Ryan sat down slowly. His hands were shaking again. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was something else, something warmer. The day moved forward. Ryan presented his work at 2. Natalie listened carefully. She asked questions. She nodded at his answers. When it was done, she said, "Well done." No criticism, no sharp corrections, just approval. Ryan left her office feeling lighter than he had in months. That evening, he stayed late again. He had reports to file, assignments to answer. At 7, his stomach rumbled. He ignored it. At 8, the office was nearly empty. He rubbed his tired eyes. Then he heard footsteps. Natalie appeared beside his desk. She held 2 takeout containers. "You haven't eaten," she said. It wasn't a question. Ryan stared at the food. How did you?" "I noticed," she said simply. She set 1 container on his desk. "Ty, I hope that's okay." Ryan's throat tightened. "You didn't have to do this. I know." She pulled up a chair. She sat across from him. She opened her own container. They ate in silence for a few minutes. The office hummed around them. Finally, Natalie spoke. "I heard you on the phone last week." Ryan looked up. "You were talking to your neighbor, asking if she could watch Sophie again. You sounded stressed." Ryan's face heated. "I didn't mean to be loud." "You weren't," Natalie said. She set down her fork. "I just happened to walk by." She looked at him, really looked at him. "I know what it's like," she said quietly. What's like? Loneliness." The word hung between them. Heavy true. "Everyone thinks I'm cold," she continued. Her voice was soft, vulnerable. "The Ice Queen. That's what they call me." Ryan wanted to deny it, but she raised a hand. "It's okay, I know, and maybe it's true." She folded her hands in her lap. "I built walls, high ones, Because it's easier than letting people see you struggle. Ryan's heart ached. Why are you telling me this? Natalie smiled. It was sad, beautiful. Because you called me Mrs. Right. She laughed softly. And no one has ever said anything like that to me before. Ryan couldn't breathe. I didn't mean to. I know, she said. But maybe part of you did. She stood up. She gathered her container. I see you, Ryan. I see how hard you work, how much you love your daughter, how tired you are. Her eyes glistened. And I want you to know you're not alone. She walked toward her office. Ryan sat frozen. His chest felt full, like something was breaking open inside him. Natalie, he called. She stopped. She turned. Thank you, he said. His voice cracked. For the coffee, for the food, for seeing me. She nodded. Good night, Ryan. Good night. She disappeared into her office. Ryan sat in the quiet. His food was half-eaten. His heart was pounding. He thought about her words, about loneliness, about walls, about being seen. And he realized something. He wasn't just grateful. He was falling for the woman everyone thought was made of ice. The woman who was actually made of carefully hidden warmth. If you've ever felt invisible, like no one truly sees your struggle, hit that like button. Drop a comment and tell us about a time someone unexpectedly showed you kindness when you needed it most. Ryan packed up his things. He walked to the elevator, but his mind stayed with her, with the sadness in her smile, with the truth in her words, and he knew. This wasn't just about a slipped word anymore. This was about two lonely people finding each other in the darkness, and neither of them knew what to do about it. 3 days later, Natalie called Ryan into her office. He walked in expecting another assignment. Instead, she gestured to the chair across from her desk. Close the door, she said. Ryan's pulse quickened. He did as she asked. He sat down. Natalie folded her hands on her desk. The Meridian account, she said. If we land it, this company moves to the next level. Ryan nodded. Everyone knew about Meridian. It was the biggest potential client in years. I'm leading the pitch, Natalie continued. And I want you on my team. Ryan's eyes widened. Me? You? She leaned forward. Your presentation last week was excellent, sharp, creative, exactly what we need. Ryan's heart hammered. But there are people with more experience. I don't want experience, Natalie said. Her eyes were intense. I want vision. I want someone who understands what it means to fight for something that matters. She paused. You fight for your daughter every day. That kind of determination shows in your work. Ryan felt his throat tighten. This project could change everything for you, she said softly. A promotion, better salary, more stability for Sophie. She held his gaze. But it means long hours, late nights, working closely with me. The air between them felt charged, electric. Can you handle that? She asked. Ryan swallowed. Yes. Natalie smiled. A real smile. It transformed her face. Good. We start tonight. And so it began. They worked side by side every evening. Ryan would drop Sophie at Mrs. Harmon's house. Then he'd return to the office. Natalie would be waiting. They'd order dinner, spread papers across the conference table, build strategies, draft presentations, debate ideas until midnight. The first few nights were professional, careful. But slowly, the walls began to crack. One night, Ryan brought printed mock-ups. Natalie studied them. These are beautiful, she said. Her voice was warm. Where did you learn design? Taught myself, Ryan admitted. When Sophie was a baby, I couldn't afford a designer for freelance work. So I learned. Natalie looked at him. You're remarkable, she said quietly. Ryan's face heated. I just do what I have to. That's what makes you remarkable. Another night, they worked until 1 in the morning. Ryan's eyes kept closing. Natalie noticed. Go home, she said gently. I'm fine, Ryan. She stood. She walked to where he sat. She placed her hand on his shoulder. The touch was light, but it burned through his shirt. You're exhausted. Sophie needs you rested. Ryan looked up at her. What about you? Don't you need rest too? Something flickered in her eyes. I'm used to being alone, she said. Sleep doesn't come easy for me. Ryan's heart ached. Why not? She pulled her hand back. She walked to the window. I was engaged once, she said. Her voice was barely audible. Ryan went still. He said I worked too much, that I cared more about my career than him. She wrapped her arms around herself. He left 3 days before the wedding. Ryan's chest tightened. Natalie, everyone told me I was too cold, too ambitious, too much. She turned to face him. Her eyes were wet. So I decided to be exactly what they thought I was. I built walls. I stopped letting people in. A tear slipped down her cheek. It's safer that way. Ryan stood. He crossed the room. He stopped just in front of her. You're not too much, he said. His voice was firm. You're brilliant and strong and kind. She shook her head. You don't know me. I'm starting to, he said. And everything I see, I like. Natalie's breath hitched. They stood inches apart. Ryan could smell her perfume, could see the vulnerability in her eyes. He wanted to close the distance, to hold her, to tell her she deserved everything. But he couldn't. She was still his boss. This was still complicated. Thank you, she whispered. She stepped back. She wiped her eyes. We should finish this section. Ryan nodded, but everything had shifted. The next week blurred together. They fell into a rhythm. Coffee in the morning, strategy sessions at lunch, late nights in the conference room. Natalie laughed more. She asked about Sophie constantly. Ryan showed her pictures. Natalie's face would light up. She looks like you, she said once. Same smile. Ryan grinned. She's the best thing I ever did. She's lucky to have you. Their hands would brush when passing papers. Their eyes would hold a moment too long. The tension grew, thick, undeniable. One Friday night, they finished a major milestone. Natalie leaned back in her chair. She was glowing. We make a good team, Ryan said. We do. She looked at him, really looked at him. I haven't felt this alive in years. Ryan's heart raced. Neither have I. The confession hung between them. Natalie stood. She gathered her things. I should go. Natalie, wait. She stopped. Ryan didn't know what to say. There were 1,000 words in his chest, but they all felt too big, too dangerous. Thank you, he said instead, for believing in me. She smiled, sad and sweet. You make it easy. She left. Ryan stood alone in the conference room. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. He was falling in love with his boss, the Ice Queen, the woman who was anything but cold, and he had no idea what to do about it. Have you ever worked closely with someone and felt the lines start to blur? When does professional become personal? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Ryan packed up his laptop. He walked to his car. The night air was cool, but his skin felt hot. He thought about her tears, her confession, the way she looked at him, like he mattered, like he was worth something. He drove home, but his mind stayed with her, with the walls she'd built, with the loneliness she carried, and he realized something terrifying. He didn't just want to work with Natalie. He wanted to know her, all of her, the broken parts, the guarded parts, the parts she kept hidden from the world. He wanted to be the one she trusted, the one she let in. But wanting something and having it were two different things, and the distance between them felt impossible to cross. At least, that's what he thought. The call came at 6:30 on a Thursday evening. Ryan was deep in the Meridian presentation when his phone buzzed. Mrs. Harmon's name flashed on the screen. His stomach dropped. She never called this late, Ryan? Her voice was shaky. I'm so sorry, but I've fallen. I think I sprained my ankle. I can't watch Sophie tonight. Ryan's world tilted. Are you okay? Do you need me to call someone? No, my daughter's coming. But Sophie, she's been waiting for you. She's worried. Ryan closed his eyes. The presentation was due tomorrow morning. He and Natalie had planned to work until midnight, but Sophie came first. Always. I'll be right there, he said. He hung up and looked across the conference table. Natalie was watching him with concern. Everything okay? My babysitter fell. I have to get Sophie. Natalie nodded immediately. Of course. Go. Ryan started packing his laptop. His hands were shaking. They were so close to finishing, so close to perfection. I'm sorry, he said. I can work from home tonight. Send you what I finish. Ryan. Natalie's voice stopped him. Bring her here. Ryan blinked. What? Bring Sophie here. We can finish the presentation together, all three of us. Ryan stared at her. You don't mean that. I do. Her voice was soft. Certain. She can do homework, draw, whatever she needs, and we can finish our work. Ryan's throat tightened. Are you sure? Natalie smiled, a real smile, warm and genuine. I'm sure. 40 minutes later, Ryan walked back into the office. Sophie's small hand was tucked in his. She wore her favorite purple dress. Her backpack bounced against her legs. Her eyes were wide as she took in the empty office. Daddy, it's so big, she whispered. It is, Ryan agreed. His heart hammered as they approached the conference room. Natalie looked up when they entered, and something magical happened. Her entire face transformed. The sharp lines softened. Her eyes lit up. Her smile became radiant. You must be Sophie, she said gently. Sophie hid behind Ryan's legs. Natalie crouched down to Sophie's level. I'm Natalie. I work with your daddy. Sophie peeked out. Our Natalie laughed. A real laugh, light and musical. I am. But tonight I'm just Natalie. Is that okay? Sophie nodded slowly. Within minutes, Natalie had Sophie settled at a small table. She'd found coloring books from somewhere, crayons, even a juice box. How did you? Ryan started. I may have prepared, Natalie admitted, her cheeks flushed pink. Ryan's heart stuttered. She'd prepared. For his daughter, as they worked, Ryan watched Natalie with Sophie. She was patient, gentle. When Sophie showed her a drawing, Natalie studied it seriously. This is beautiful. Tell me about it. When Sophie got tired, Natalie helped her make a blanket fort using office chairs. When Sophie got hungry, Natalie ordered pizza. She sat on the floor with Sophie. She played tic-tac-toe. She listened to Sophie's stories about school, about her best friend Emma, about how much she missed her daddy when he worked late. Ryan's chest ached. This was the woman everyone called cold, the ice queen. But with Sophie, she was pure warmth, pure love. Sophie fell asleep around 10, curled up in the makeshift fort. Natalie covered her with her own blazer. She brushed Sophie's hair back gently. She's perfect, she whispered to Ryan. Ryan looked at Natalie, really looked at her, soft in the office lights, vulnerable, beautiful. And he knew. He was completely in love with her, not just attracted, not just grateful, in love. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For this, for her, for everything. Natalie met his eyes. Something passed between them. Electric, undeniable. Ryan. A throat cleared behind them. They turned. Marcus from accounting stood in the doorway. His eyes took in the scene. The sleeping child, the blanket fort, Ryan and Natalie standing close together, very close. Working late? Marcus asked. His tone was knowing. Suspicious, Ryan stepped back from Natalie. Just finishing up the Meridian presentation. Marcus nodded slowly. Right, the presentation. He walked away, but Ryan saw the look on his face, the judgment, the calculation. The next week, whispers followed Ryan through the hallways, hushed conversations that stopped when he approached, knowing glances, raised eyebrows. Did you hear about Ryan and the boss? Working late together every night. She brought his kid to the office, playing house in the conference room. Must be nice to get special treatment. Ryan tried to ignore them, but the whispers grew louder, bolder, more vicious. On Friday, Sarah from HR knocked on his cubicle. Ryan, could I see you for a moment? His blood went cold. He followed her to her office. She closed the door. I've received some concerns, she said carefully. About your working relationship with Natalie. Ryan's world stopped. What kind of concerns? Sarah consulted her notes. Reports of favoritism, inappropriate after-hours meetings, personal involvement that may compromise professional judgment. Ryan's hands clenched. It's not what it looks like. What does it look like, Ryan? The question hung in the air, heavy, load. Ryan thought about Natalie's laugh, about the way she'd covered Sophie with her blazer, about the coffee on his desk every morning, about the way she looked at him when she thought no one was watching. I don't know, he admitted. Sarah nodded grimly. That's the problem. She leaned forward. I'm required to investigate any reports of inappropriate workplace relationships, especially between supervisors and their direct reports. Ryan's chest felt tight. What does that mean? It means we'll need to interview both of you, separately, and until this investigation is complete, you'll be reassigned. The room spun. Reassigned? Away from Natalie's team, away from the Meridian project. Ryan's heart shattered. Everything they'd worked for, everything they'd built, gone. I'm sorry, Ryan, but we have to take these allegations seriously. Ryan stood on unsteady legs. When? Monday morning. He walked back to his desk in a daze. His phone buzzed. A text from Natalie. Conference room. Now, we need to talk. Ryan's hands shook as he read it. Someone had already told her. The investigation, the reassignment, the end of everything. He walked toward the conference room. Each step felt like walking toward an execution. When workplace relationships cross the line, the consequences can be devastating. Have you ever been caught between your heart and your job? Drop a comment and let us know your thoughts. And if this story has you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button, because it's about to get even more intense. Ryan reached for the conference room door. His heart pounded. Behind that door was the woman he loved, the woman he might lose, and a conversation that would change everything. He took a deep breath and walked into the storm. Ryan opened the conference room door with trembling hands. Natalie stood with her back to him. Her shoulders were rigid. Her hands were clenched at her sides. She didn't turn when he entered. "Close the door," she said. Her voice was different. Cold. Distant. The warmth from the past weeks was gone. Ryan's heart sank. "Natalie, sit down." It was a command, not a request. Ryan sat. Natalie finally turned. Her face was a mask, professional, unreadable. The woman who'd laughed with Sophie was nowhere to be seen. "I've been informed of the HR investigation," she said. Her words were clipped, precise. "I want to be very clear about something." Ryan waited. His chest felt tight. This was a mistake. The words hit him like a physical blow. "What?" "Working closely together. The late nights. All of it. It was unprofessional, and it ends now." Ryan stared at her. "You don't mean that." "I absolutely mean that." Her eyes were ice. "I let my guard down. I made poor choices, and now both our careers are in jeopardy." Ryan stood. "Natalie, what we shared was nothing." She cut him off. "It was convenience, proximity. Two people working late and mistaking professional collaboration for something more." Ryan's world tilted. "That's not true." "What about Sophie? The way you were with her was appropriate workplace support for a struggling employee." Each word was a knife. Nothing more. Ryan couldn't breathe. "I don't believe you." Natalie's jaw tightened. "Believe what you want, but this ends here." She moved to the head of the table. "Put distance between them. You're being reassigned to David's team, effective immediately." Ryan's hands shook. "What about Meridian?" "No longer your concern. We built that presentation together. I'll handle it alone." Ryan's heart shattered. "Why are you doing this?" For just a moment her mask slipped. He saw pain flash across her face, raw deep, but then it was gone. "Because it's what's best for everyone involved." Ryan stepped toward her. "Natalie, please. Talk to me. Really talk to me." She backed away. "There's nothing to talk about." "Yes, there is. I know what I felt. I know what you felt. You felt gratitude, appreciation, nothing more. That's not true, and you know it." Natalie's voice rose. "It doesn't matter what I know." She caught herself, lowered her voice. "What matters is that this company has policies, standards, and we crossed a line." Ryan's throat burned. "So that's it? We just pretend none of it happened?" "That's exactly what we do." She straightened her jacket, composed herself. "Monday morning, you report to David. This conversation never happened. Our previous working relationship was strictly professional." Ryan stared at her. "I can't do that. You can, and you will." Her eyes met his. "Because if you don't, the investigation will continue. The rumors will spread. Your reputation will be destroyed." Ryan's blood went cold. "Is that a threat?" "It's a reality." Natalie moved toward the door. "And Ryan? Sophie needs a father with a stable job, not one who's tangled up in workplace scandals." The words destroyed him. She was using his daughter, the thing he cared about most, to make him comply. "Don't," he whispered. "Don't bring her into this." Natalie's hand was on the door handle. "I'm sorry it has to be this way." Her voice cracked, just slightly. "But it does." She left. The door clicked shut behind her. Ryan sat alone in the conference room, the same room where they'd shared dinners, where they'd built dreams, where Sophie had slept under Natalie's blazer, where everything had felt possible. Now it felt like a tomb. Monday morning came like a death sentence. Ryan moved his things to David's team. Colleagues watched him with pity, or speculation, or both. David was kind, professional, but Ryan couldn't focus. Every task felt meaningless. He caught glimpses of Natalie in the hallways. She didn't look at him, didn't acknowledge him. She was the ice queen again. Completely. During lunch, he tried to approach her office. Her assistant stopped him. "Mems, Natalie is in meetings all day." Ryan knew it was a lie. He sent her an email. She didn't respond. He tried again. Nothing. By Thursday, he was desperate. He waited by the elevator. When she appeared, he stepped forward. "Natalie, Mr. Thompson." The formal address cut deep. "I have nothing to say to you, but I have things to say to you." She pressed the elevator button. "Then say them to HR." The elevator opened. She stepped inside. Ryan moved to follow. She held up a hand. "Don't." Their eyes met for a split second. He saw everything there: pain, regret, love, carefully hidden but unmistakable. Then the doors closed. Ryan stood in the empty hallway, his heart in pieces. Friday afternoon, Ryan learned the truth. Marcus cornered him by the coffee machine. "Heard you got reassigned," Marcus said. His tone was smug. "Must sting. Losing the big project." Ryan ignored him. You know, I did you a favor, Marcus continued. Filing that complaint saved you from making a bigger mistake. Ryan's blood turned to ice. What? Marcus grinned. Someone had to report what I saw. The boss playing favorites, the special treatment, the kid in the office. He leaned closer. I mean, we all know how these things work. Pretty obvious what you were giving her in return for career advancement. Ryan's fists clenched. That's not what happened. Sure it's not. Marcus straightened his tie. But hey, at least now she knows better. Ice Queen's got her walls back up where they belong. He walked away. Ryan stood frozen. Marcus. It was Marcus who destroyed everything. Not concern for company policy. Not workplace standards. Jealousy. Spite. Malice. Ryan wanted to scream, to punch something, to march into HR and tell them the truth. But the truth was complicated. The truth was that he had fallen in love with his boss. The truth was that she'd fallen in love with him too. And in the corporate world, that was enough to ruin everything. When jealousy and office politics collide, innocent people get caught in the crossfire. Have you ever been the target of workplace gossip or jealousy? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this betrayal has your blood boiling, hit that like button. Because Ryan isn't done fighting yet. Ryan walked back to his desk. His hands were shaking. His heart was broken, but his mind was clear. Natalie was protecting him, protecting Sophie, sacrificing her own happiness for their future. She was pushing him away because she loved him, not because she didn't. The realization hit him like lightning. And suddenly Ryan knew what he had to do. He was going to fight for her, for them, for the truth, even if it cost him everything. The Ice Queen thought she could build her walls back up, but Ryan was about to show her that some things were worth tearing those walls down, no matter the consequences. 3 weeks passed, 3 weeks of silence, 3 weeks of Natalie avoiding his eyes in meetings, 3 weeks of Ryan watching the woman he loved disappear behind her walls. The Meridian presentation was scheduled for Friday. The presentation they'd built together, the presentation that should have been theirs. Ryan couldn't take it anymore. Thursday night, he called Mrs. Harmon. I need a favor, he said. Of course, dear. What is it? Can you watch Sophie tomorrow? There's something I have to do at work, something important. Mrs. Harmon's voice was warm. You go do what you need to do. Sophie will be just fine with me. Friday morning, Ryan arrived early. He wore his best suit. His hands were steady. His mind was clear. At 9 o'clock, the entire company gathered in the main conference room. The Meridian clients sat at the head of the table. Natalie stood at the presentation screen. She looked beautiful, professional, untouchable, but Ryan could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the sadness she thought she was hiding. Natalie began her presentation. Her voice was confident, strong. She walked through the strategy, the creative concepts, the timeline, everything they'd worked on together. But she gave him no credit, mentioned no collaboration. It was as if he'd never existed. The clients asked questions. Natalie answered perfectly. Ryan watched from the back of the room, his heart breaking and healing at the same time. She was magnificent, and she was miserable. When the presentation ended, applause filled the room. The Meridian clients smiled, shook hands, promised a decision by Monday. As people began to file out, Ryan stood. His legs felt shaky, but his voice was strong. Wait, he said. The room went quiet. All eyes turned to him. Natalie's face went white. Ryan, she said quietly, a warning, a plea. Ryan ignored it. He walked to the front of the room. There's something I need to say. His manager frowned. This isn't the time. Actually, it is. Ryan's voice carried across the room. I need to address the rumors that have been circulating about Natalie and me. Natalie's eyes went wide. Ryan, don't. No, I need to. He turned to face the room. His coworkers, his bosses, the clients, everyone. 3 weeks ago, someone filed a complaint. Said there was favoritism, an inappropriate relationship. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. They were right. Natalie made a small sound, like she was in pain. There was favoritism, Ryan continued. Natalie saw potential in me when no one else did. She believed in me. She gave me opportunities to grow. He looked directly at her. And yes, there was an inappropriate relationship. I inappropriately fell in love with the most incredible woman I've ever met. Gasps filled the room. Natalie's hand flew to her mouth. I fell in love with her brilliance, her strength, her kindness. Ryan's voice grew stronger. I fell in love with the way she brought me coffee every morning, the way she asked about my daughter, The way she stayed late not because she had to, but because she cared. Tears streamed down Natalie's face. I fell in love with the woman who played with my 7-year-old on the office floor, who covered her with her own jacket when she fell asleep. The room was dead silent. So yes, I called her Mrs. Right, because she is. She's everything right in this world. Ryan stepped closer to Natalie, and if loving her makes me unprofessional, then I'm the most unprofessional man alive. His voice cracked. But I won't let her sacrifice her happiness for mine. I won't let her build walls to protect me. He turned back to the room. Natalie never showed me favoritism. She showed me what it looks like to be seen, to be valued, to be worth something. Ryan's eyes found Natalie's, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to show her the same thing. The silence stretched, heavy, electric. Then, slowly, Natalie stepped forward, her walls crumbling, her mask falling away. "Ryan," she whispered. Her voice was broken. "Beautiful, you impossible man." She reached for him. "You're going to get us both fired." Ryan caught her hands. "I don't care. You should care. Sophie needs me to be happy, and I'm only happy with you." Natalie's composure shattered. She collapsed against his chest, sobbing. "I tried to stay away. I tried to protect you. I don't need protection. I need you." Ryan held her tight. "I love you, Natalie. All of you. The walls, the scars, the fear, everything. I love you too," she whispered against his chest. "I love you so much it terrifies me." The room erupted. Some people clapped. Others whispered. A few looked scandalized. But Ryan didn't care. He only cared about the woman in his arms. The woman who'd finally let her walls fall. An hour later, they sat in HR together this time. Sarah looked between them. "This is unprecedented." Ryan squeezed Natalie's hand. "We understand the complications. We're willing to handle this ethically." Natalie nodded. "I'll request a transfer. Or resign if necessary." Sarah sighed. "Let's see what we can work out. The company values both of you." She paused. "But there will need to be clear boundaries. Proper protocols." "We understand," Natalie said. "Whatever it takes." That evening, Ryan picked up Sophie. His heart was lighter than it had been in weeks. "Daddy." Sophie ran into his arms. "You look happy." Ryan laughed. "I am happy, sweetheart." "Why?" Ryan thought about Natalie, about the future they were building, about the walls they'd torn down. "Because sometimes when you're brave enough to tell the truth, everything works out." Sophie grinned. "Can we get ice cream?" "Absolutely." They walked hand in hand toward the car. Ryan's phone buzzed, a text from Natalie. "Dinner tomorrow? I want to meet Sophie properly, not as your boss, as the woman who loves her father." Ryan smiled. He typed back. "She's going to love you, almost as much as I do." 3 dots appeared then. "Mrs. Right, huh?" Ryan laughed out loud. "Always. Love requires courage. It demands that we tear down the walls we've built to protect ourselves and choose vulnerability over safety." Have you ever had to choose between your heart and your security? Share your story in the comments below. And if this story of love conquering fear resonates with you, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories that remind us that the greatest risks often lead to the greatest rewards. 6 months later, Ryan walked into Natalie's new office. She'd been promoted to regional director. He'd moved to a different department, same company, different reporting structure, everything above board. "Mrs. Wright," he said, leaning against her doorframe. Natalie looked up from her computer. Her smile was radiant. "That's Director Wright to you." Ryan laughed. "Sophie's asking when you're coming to dinner again. Tell her Sunday. I'm bringing ingredients for chocolate chip cookies." "She's going to lose her mind." Natalie stood, walked around her desk, wrapped her arms around his neck. "I love our life," she whispered. "Even the complicated parts? Especially the complicated parts." Ryan kissed her softly. "I love you, Mrs. Wright. I love you too." And in the distance, through the office windows, the sun set over a city full of possibilities. 2 hearts that had found each other against all odds. 2 people who'd chosen love over fear. And a little girl who finally had the family she'd always dreamed of. Sometimes, the most beautiful love stories begin with the most impossible circumstances. All it takes is the courage to say what's in your heart, even if your voice shakes. Even if the world is watching, even if you risk everything, because some things are worth the risk, and love, real love, is always worth the fight.